Thanks for tuning in to another tips and tutorial video brought to you by my channel, Real Fine Fishing. Today, we're going to be talking about fizzing a bass. Let's get to it. I know what you're probably thinking. What is fizzing a bass? I'm about to get into some pretty advanced stuff, so if you're not advanced in fishing, stay right here. This tips and tutorial might help you out. Fizzing is the act of releasing air that's trapped into a fish's swim bladder by using a device that's called a fizzing needle. It kind of resembles a sewing needle and a bike tire inflator. When you catch a bass at depths of 20 feet or more, their swim bladder becomes engaged. It acts like a buoy. When you're reeling in a bass at that depth and bring them to the surface abruptly, it doesn't give the bass enough time to release that air, and that air becomes trapped. So when you go to release them or put them in your live well, they start to swim sideways or even upside down, and that is not good for fish. So in order to have them swim upright, you need to fizz them. There are right and wrong ways to do this. So this fizzing process only applies to smallmouth bass and largemouth bass. The swim bladder in a largemouth and a smallmouth are relatively located in the same spot. However, there are major differences. A good way to find where their swim bladder is to use their fins. So here we have a smallmouth. You see their soft dorsal fin or their second fin. You see their anal fin. You see their pelvic fins, their spinal dorsal fin, and then their pectoral fin. And then you have the largemouth. Again, with their dorsal fins, their pelvic fin, their anal fin, and their pectoral fin. So when you catch any of these fish at a very low depth, and they seem to be swimming sideways or upside down, lay them flat on their side, locate their fins, and then proceed to follow these instructions. Due to not wanting to have graphic content, I'm going to demonstrate this process on a fish that I drew. I would like for people to learn from this video, not be grossed out. I have a feeling I might get a couple thumbs down for this, but that's okay. Okay, so this is going to represent a smallmouth bass. So you have the pectoral fin, pelvic fin, spiky dorsal, soft dorsal, and then your anal fin right here. Largemouth bass have relatively the same fin position as a smallmouth, so I'm going to use this for both demonstrations. However, the process of fizzing is going to be very different. Smallmouth bass, you want to locate the fourth spine right here. And then you want to locate the anus right here. So what you're going to do is from that fourth spine, you want to find a 45-degree angle from the fourth spine to the anus. And right in the middle of that is going to be your swim bladder. So we'll take this away. There it is. So the process of this, you're going to go in at a 45-degree angle with your fizzing needle. You're going to lift up a scale, bring it in, and puncture just a little bit. And then you're going to bring it vertical and puncture down, and you will hear the air come out of it. Now for a largemouth. This picture is not going to be shown to scale, but to locate the swim bladder on a largemouth, you're going to locate the notch where these two dorsal fins meet. And it's going to be a straight line down to the anus. I know that on the smallmouth, it was right here that I demonstrated. But on the actual anatomy of a largemouth, it will be in a straight line. So in the middle of that straight line is going to be your swim bladder, which is actually going to be about right here. So with the fish laying on its side, you want to go in at a 45-degree angle and let the air out. Same thing, you're going to hear the air come out. So in this demonstration, I'm going to locate what the swim bladder looks like on a smallmouth, which is right here. But on a largemouth, it'll extend to look like that. That's why there is such a different location between smallmouth and largemouth. Now this process should only be done if your fizzing needle is absolutely clean. A dirty needle can cause infections and ultimately kill the fish. This process is also very dangerous for the fish and kind of has a low survival rate. I only demonstrated this process to show you if and when fizzing a bass is absolutely necessary and dire. This is not recommended for the weekend fisherman. This shall only take place in a tournament and you know that you have a winning fish. Unfortunately, fizzing a bass will probably only help them stay alive until shortly after your weigh-in. You ultimately want to avoid the scenario of having to fizz a fish. That means stay away from deep water. But if you do catch a bass that's in more than 20 feet of water, and it's absolutely 150% necessary, then take this process. Just keep in mind that it's very, very important to follow these measurements, because if you're off by just a millimeter, you can damage the fish's vital organs. And you have to be careful to not puncture too deep. So a quick summary. Fizzing a bass requires a fizzing needle. The act of fizzing a fish is only applied to fish that are in more than 20 feet of water. Locate the fish's fins and pinpoint the fish's swim bladder. And only do so if it's absolutely necessary. This process can immediately kill a fish, and it can drastically shorten a fish's lifespan. Another thing to consider when fizzing, you should always check with your Department of Environmental Conservation to make sure that doing this is actually legal. And if you're in a tournament, follow their rules and regulations, because there could always be a chance that fizzing is not allowed in the tournament. Now it's time for the tip of the day. So this is more of a fun fact rather than a tip. So a male bass, also known as a buck, is generally much, much smaller than the female bass. Their role is to make the bedding. And how they do this is they use their mouth to move rocks and dirt and other debris out of an area where it's warm, which is generally by the shore. They'll dig it down about a foot, and that's where the spawn process will happen. But the fun fact comes in is how to tell when you've caught a lazy bass. So when you catch a male bass and you put your thumb in its mouth and it's really prickly, kind of sandpaperish around its lip, that generally means that the male bass hasn't been moving stuff around to make a bed. But when you catch a productive male bass, that same spot in their lip is really smoothed out. And generally when you get a bass thumb, which kind of looks like dry skin, you got little holes in your skin or whatever, that's typically how you know that you caught a lazy male. I hope this tips and tutorial and fun fact video was helpful for some of you. Be sure to check out my other tips and tutorial videos, as well as Real Fine Fishing episodes. I'm already into 4th season. That's right, 4 years of this. So be sure to check it all out. Hope you guys have a real fine day.